After years of farming and working perennials professionally, I can tell you something most gardeners will never hear. That plant you walk past every morning getting smaller, blooming less, looking more tired every season, is not dying of old age. It is suffocating. Last spring, I dug up a hosta that had been in the same corner for 6 years, hollow at the center, leaves shrinking every single season. 3 weeks after I divided it into 7 pieces, every single one pushed out leaves twice the size of the original plant, 7 healthy plants, from one dying one, free. Your plants aren't sick, they're suffocating. Right now, this week, the soil is warm, the roots are wide awake. There is a specific biological window, one that closes the moment summer heat arrives, where dividing your perennials will save them, multiply them, and hand you an entirely new garden for free. Wait until July and you've missed it. Leave some of these plants undivided one more summer and they will not come back at all. 9 perennials that need to come out of the ground right now. Number 4 is Beebalm. Those powdery white patches you've been spraying, not a disease, a crowding problem. Division fixes it permanently. Number 7 is Garden Phlox. The technique is completely unlike everything else on this list. Get it wrong and you lose the plant. Get it right and your blooms double. Number 9, hardy mums. May is the absolute last window. Miss it and your mums give you almost nothing come fall. Grab your gloves. By the time this video ends, you'll never look at a struggling plant the same way again. Plant number 1, hostas. If yours has been in the ground more than 4 years, the center of that clump is probably already hollow, brown, and dead. Most people don't notice until the whole plant is half the size it was 3 seasons ago. That's not old age. That's a root system that ran out of room. Fix it now, while those thick, pointed buds are just starting to push up through the soil before the leaves have fully opened. Once they unfurl, division becomes significantly harder on the plant. Dig around the full outer edge first, then push 2 spading forks in back-to-back at the center and pry the root mass apart. Do not be delicate. These roots are dense and compacted. They need real pressure. Once it opens up, look at the core. Old woody tissue, no new growth, throw it away every single time without exception. It will not recover. Take the vigorous outer sections, firm roots, healthy buds, and replant immediately. Crown exactly level with the soil surface, not above, not below, exactly level. A generous handful of compost in each hole. Shade. Water every day for the first 2 weeks. One crowded clump gives you 4 to 6 brand new plants by the end of the same afternoon. Drop a comment below. Do you have hostas in your garden? Have you noticed them getting smaller every year? Type yes right now. I want to see how many of you are dealing with this. Yarrow is next, and there is one replanting depth mistake that kills the division within weeks. It is not what most people expect. Plant number 2, yarrow. That depth mistake I promised you, this is it. Most gardeners divide their yarrow perfectly. Clean sections, healthy roots, good stems. Then they replant it the way they'd plant almost anything else, crown at soil level, firm it in, water generously. 3 weeks later, every single division has collapsed and rotted. Yarrow is built for dry, sun-baked, well-drained conditions. It doesn't behave like your hostas. It doesn't want moisture. It doesn't want to be pampered. Wet roots kill it fast, and a division sitting too deep in heavy soil can begin rotting at the crown before it ever pushes a single new root. The rule is drainage first, everything else second. Replant with the crown set slightly high, just at or barely above the soil surface in full sun with excellent drainage. If your soil holds water even briefly after rain, work coarse sand or fine grit into the bed before anything goes back in the ground. That root zone needs to breathe, not optional. Your window, the moment you see fresh, low green growth emerging from the base. Dig the entire root ball cleanly with a sharp, straight spade. Slice straight down into 4 to 6 sections. Every piece must have active roots and healthy shoots. You need both. Space them at least 18 inches apart. Water once to settle the soil. Then ease off. Trust the plant. Divided correctly, yarrow brings back those wide, flat-topped flower clusters and keeps pollinators working your garden from late spring straight through to September. Next is daylilies. If your clumps have been in the ground more than 5 years and the blooms are getting sparse, What's happening underground is already urgent. Do not skip this one. Plant number 3, daylilies. When a clump that used to give you dozens of blooms starts producing sparse, small flowers year after year, most people assume the soil is tired or the plant is getting old. That plant is not old. It is starving. A mass of thick, fleshy, intertwined roots has been competing for the same pocket of soil for years, depleting nutrients, fighting for space, suffocating each other. Those sparse blooms are telling you it has already reached a breaking point. Here's the first thing that surprises almost every gardener. Before you dig a single root, cut that foliage back to 6 to 8 inches, not after, before. Those long leaf blades pull enormous amounts of water through the plant, losing them to transplant stress while the roots are severed and can kill the division before it ever establishes. Cut first, then dig. Use a sharp spade or two back-to-back spading forks to work the root mass loose. Dense, heavily intertwined, do not expect them to come apart easily. Once you've lifted the clump, look for sections with 1 to 3 healthy leaf fans and bright white root tips. Those white tips are your signal. The root is still active and ready to grow. Brown, mushy roots go straight into the compost. Now depth. This is where most daylily divisions fail silently, and the gardener never understands why. The crown, the exact point where pale roots transition into green leaves, must sit precisely 1 inch below the soil surface. Plant too deep, and the plant goes blind. It pushes out lush, gorgeous foliage all season long and produces 0 flowers. A perfectly healthy-looking plant that never blooms again. That is not a soil problem. That is a depth problem. After dividing, expect a flowering pause of 1 to 2 seasons. Completely normal. The plant is rebuilding. Do not dig it back up. Give it time. Next is Beebalm. What most gardeners think is a disease destroying their plants is actually a crowding problem they created themselves. Plant number 4, Beebalm. That white powder spreading across your Beebalm every August, the powdery mildew you've been spraying with fungicide year after year, is not random bad luck. You did not catch a disease. You created the perfect conditions for one the moment that clump got too crowded. Beebalm spreads fast through shallow, creeping roots. Within 2 to 3 years, one plant becomes a dense, packed mass of stems with no airflow between them. That trapped humidity at the base is exactly what powdery mildew needs. Warm air, cool nights, 0 circulation. The fungal spores do the rest. Crowding built the environment. Division dismantles it. In late spring, dig around the outer edge and lift the root system. Shallow roots come up without much resistance. Look at the center. Older, woody, brown stems with nothing left to give. Discard every piece. It is finished. Keep only the outer sections of younger divisions with plump, pinkish-white roots and firm, upright stems. Those are the only pieces that go back in the ground. Fresh soil, at least 2 feet between each division. More space, more airflow. Mildew never gets the foothold it needs. Water daily for the first 2 weeks. These shallow roots dry out fast. If the foliage already carries mildew, apply an organic biofungicide at replanting to protect the plant while it reestablishes. Beebalm divided every 2 to 3 years stays upright, blooms heavily, and keeps clean foliage all season long. Left to crowd itself, it gives you that gray-dusted collapse every August, and you never understand why. We are halfway through this list. If this video is showing you what has actually been happening in your garden, hit like right now. It helps this reach more gardeners just like you. Drop a comment. Which plant on this list has surprised you most? I read every single one. Next is Goldenrod. Most people think it takes care of itself, but left undivided, it is quietly spreading out of control and starving itself while it does it. Plant number 5, Goldenrod. Most gardeners look at their goldenrod in May and think it looks fine. Upright, green, pushing up fresh growth. Everything looks orderly. What's happening underground is nothing like what you see above. Goldenrod spreads through aggressive underground rhizomes, lateral roots that push outward invisibly, claiming new ground in every direction. By the time the colony looks even slightly overgrown at the surface, those rhizomes have already moved 2, 3, sometimes 4 feet beyond the plant's visible edge. As the center gets older and more congested, It competes against itself crowded stems, fighting for the same nutrients, the same water, the same root space. The result is the same as every plant on this list. Fewer flowers, weaker stems, less of everything. Division every 2 to 3 years is the fix. And in late spring, it's straightforward. Dig up the entire root mass. Once it's out of the ground and you can see the rhizome network clearly, use a sharp spade or serrated knife to cut it into 3 or 4 sections. Each piece needs several firm, upright shoots and a healthy cluster of attached roots. The old, depleted center goes in the compost. The vigorous outer sections go back in the ground, spaced generously, full sun, well-drained soil. Here's what almost no one knows. Goldenrod does not want fertilizer. Feeding it produces soft, floppy stems and significantly fewer flowers. This plant evolved in lean, nutrient-poor meadow soils. It performs best when you leave the ground lean. What it does respond to: mulch. A 2-inch layer over the root zone holds moisture, steadies soil temperature, and helps the divisions establish without stress. One large clump, divided correctly, gives you 10 to 12 new plants, all of them loaded with those vibrant yellow plumes that pollinators cover from late summer straight through October. Next is Dianthus. Most people divide it completely wrong. The reason is its root system is unlike anything else on this list. Plant number 6, Dianthus. Put the spading forks away. Everything about dividing Dianthus is different from every plant on this list. Dianthus, the fragrant pinks that fill cottage gardens with clove-scented blooms, has one of the most delicate, shallow root systems of any perennial you will divide. Fine, fibrous roots sitting close to the surface. Heavy tools damage them. A sturdy hand weeding fork or even your fingers is all you need. Here's what nobody tells you first. Before you lift anything, look at the center of the clump. If the plant has been in the ground 2 or 3 years without division, what you will find is a woody, grayish-brown mat, stiff, sparse, and completely done producing. That center never comes back. It goes in the compost. Use your hand fork to pry up the outer sections. Pull the divisions apart by hand. Do not force them with a knife. The natural sections separate easily once the root ball is lifted. Each piece needs healthy green stems and a cluster of living roots attached. That is your division. Simple. Now the 2 rules most people break and both lead to the same result. First, the crown must sit exactly at the soil surface, not 1 inch below, not half an inch below, flush with the surface. Dianthus buried even slightly at the crown develops rot within a single season. The plant will look healthy for weeks and then collapse without warning. Second, do not mulch the crown with bark. Bark traps moisture against the stems and triggers the same rot you just worked to avoid. Instead, top dress with coarse grit, fine gravel, or crushed oyster shell. It pulls moisture away from the crown, sharpens drainage, and gently raises soil alkalinity, exactly what Dianthus needs. A handful of crushed eggshells worked into the planting hole before you set the division in does the same job and costs you nothing. Dianthus divided every 2 to 3 years stays compact, blooms heavily, and keeps that sweet clove fragrance filling your garden all spring and early summer. Next is black-eyed Susans. They look tough enough to take care of themselves, but there is one replanting mistake that silently stunts them for years, and almost every gardener makes it. Plant number 7, black-eyed Susans. Black-eyed Susans are the most forgiving plant on this entire list, and that reputation is exactly what sets the trap. Native, drought-tolerant, adaptable to clay, loam, everything in between. Most gardeners barely give them a second thought. They come back every season, spread on their own, and cover themselves in gold from July straight through to frost, but leave them undivided past 3 to 4 years, and something starts happening. The blooms get smaller, the stems get floppy. The whole clump loses that compact, upright shape that made it such a showpiece. That is not age. That is a congested root system competing against itself, and it needs to come out of the ground right now. The division itself is the easiest on this list. Once you see fresh green growth pushing up from the base, dig the full clump with a spading fork or transplanting shovel. Dense, fibrous roots need real force. Once the root ball is out, find the vigorous outer sections with firm shoots and healthy white root tips. They go back to the ground. The old woody center goes straight into the compost. Now here is the mistake I promised you. After dividing, almost every gardener does what seems logical. They prepare the planting hole generously with compost, sometimes a scoop of fertilizer, because that is what you do for a plant you want to thrive. Black-eyed Susans are native meadow plants. They evolved in lean, low-fertility soil. Excess nitrogen pushes them to produce lush, healthy-looking foliage and dramatically fewer flowers. The plant looks perfect all season long and barely blooms. Most gardeners never connect it to what they put in the hole. Amend lightly. A small handful of compost is all you need. Match the original planting depth exactly, not deeper, not higher. Crown suffocation stalls them just as silently as overfeeding does. If this video is saving you years of frustration in your garden, subscribe right now. There is so much more coming. Share this with one gardening friend who needs to see it today. Next is Garden Phlox, the most technical division on this entire list. Get it wrong once, and the plant does not come back. Don't skip it. Plant number 8, Garden Phlox. Every plant on this list has been divided the same basic way. Dig, split, discard the center, replant the good sections. Garden Phlox does not work that way, and if you approach it the same way, you will kill the plant. Garden Phlox does not decline evenly across the clump. It grows outward in a circle, expanding from the edges year after year, while the very center slowly dies. By year 3 or 4, what you are looking at is a living ring of vigorous growth surrounding a hollow, dead core. That center looks like it belongs to the plant. It does not. It has no capacity to recover. Replant it, and you get nothing. What you do not do, dig the whole clump, split it into sections, and replant all of it. What you do, the night before you divide, and this step is non-negotiable, water the plant deeply. Wet roots respond cleanly to division. Dry roots tear. Come back the next morning with a sharp garden knife. Expose the outer ring to the living edge of the clump and cut 4-inch sections exclusively from that active outer ring. Each piece must have at least 3 to 5 healthy shoots and a firm cluster of attached roots. That is your division. The hollow, woody center goes directly into the compost. Now depth. This is where phlox parts ways from everything else on this list. Most plants go back in at exactly the level they were growing. Phlox goes in a slightly deeper crown, positioned 1 inch below the soil surface. Plant too shallow, and those young stems cannot anchor properly. They dry out at the crown and collapse within weeks. Full sun, consistent moisture, organic mulch over the root zone. Space the division's generously crowded phlox is exactly how powdery mildew gets its foothold every single summer. Last on this list are hardy mums. Most gardeners assume they are completely maintenance-free. They are not. And there is a window closing right now this week that determines what your entire fall garden looks like. Do not skip this one. Plant number 9, hardy mums. Hardy mums. And this one genuinely surprised me. Most gardeners treat mums as seasonal color. Pick one up in September, enjoy it for a few weeks, throw it away. But true hardy mums, the perennial garden chrysanthemums, come back every year. They expand into full, dense clumps, and they need you right now. Here is the timing problem. Mums are triggered to set flower buds by shortening days in late summer. That biological clock starts ticking whether the plant is ready or not. Divide them late July, August, and the roots barely establish before the plant shifts all its energy straight into flower production. The result is weak, sparse blooms from a plant that spent the summer just trying to survive. Divide in May, and those divisions spend the entire summer building roots in warm soil, so when late summer arrives and bud sets begin, the plant has the reserves to deliver a full display. The process: dig up the parent clump when fresh basil sprouts appear, discard the old woody central crown when it is finished. With sterile hand shears, snip the vigorous outer runners and basal shoots, making sure each piece carries a healthy cluster of roots. Replant immediately in full sun, in well-drained soil amended with organic matter. Mums are heavy feeders. A balanced liquid fertilizer every 2 to 3 weeks through early summer keeps divisions building fast. Here's what most gardeners never do, and it is the difference between a decent fall display and a show-stopping one. Pinch. Every 3 to 4 weeks from now until mid-July, pinch the growing tips back by 1 inch. Every time you pinch, the plant branches. More branches means more flower buds. Stop pinching in mid-July and let the plant run. Come September, what you have is a dense, self-supporting dome, absolutely loaded with bloom. 9 plants. Your garden, transformed for free, this week before summer closes the window. If this video gave you something real today, subscribe and drop a comment telling me which plant on this list is in your garden right now. I read every single one.